We're here today to present the BioSquares Biodiversity Credit Framework. At its core, this is a consumer-scale, fractionalized biodiversity credit model. It's designed to be embedded directly into everyday products and loyalty systems, and it's built from the ground up with conservative claims and independent verification.
We'll cover this in 6 parts. We'll begin with the global context, then analyze the systemic disconnect that prevents progress. After that, we'll introduce our proposed framework, explain its core innovation, walk through the end-to-end mechanism, and conclude with our phased execution strategy.
So, let's start with the global imperative. The mandate for biodiversity protection is already well established. Ambition is not the issue. What's missing is the implementation infrastructure required for execution at a truly massive scale.
A key piece of this global ambition is the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It establishes the 30 by 30 commitment, a pledge to protect 30% of all terrestrial and marine areas by the year 2030. The commitment is there, the ambition is clear.
However, this ambition faces a significant resource gap. We're looking at a minimum annual funding shortfall of $200 billion to meet these global commitments. And notably, UN Sustainable Development Goal 14, which covers our oceans, remains the least funded of all. So, to be clear, the constraint is not a lack of awareness or policy intent. The constraint is the absence of implementation infrastructure, the mechanisms that can translate our ambition into predictable, large-scale financial flows.
And that brings us to the core structural problem. The tools we have today for biodiversity finance are simply not aligned with the speed and the scale of the global economy.
And this really illustrates the structural mismatch we're talking about. On one hand, you have biodiversity finance, which is almost always episodic, institutional in scale, and very low frequency. On the other, you have global commerce, a system that is continuous, consumer scale, and operates at an incredibly high frequency. These two systems are just not speaking the same language.
This highlights a central paradox. Biodiversity enables countless products and services, yet those products do not structurally return value to the very ecosystems they depend on. It's a one-way flow of value.
So, our proposal is a new class of infrastructure, one that's designed specifically to close this systemic gap and enable consumer-scale participation. We call this the BioSquares Biodiversity Credit. It's a fractionalized framework designed for consumer engagement. The key is that it's funded by brands, it's triggered by a simple consumer interaction, and it returns a verified proof of impact directly back to that consumer.
Now, it's absolutely critical that we're precise about what this framework is not. This is not a regulatory offset, it is not a license to harm elsewhere, it's certainly not a speculative retail investment product, and importantly, it is not a substitute for a company's fundamental mitigation obligations. This is designed purely as a verifiable contribution mechanism.
You might be wondering why this hasn't been done before. The model's novelty isn't in a single piece of new technology. It's in the systemic integration of existing proven systems.
The true novelty here is the integration of fractionalized biodiversity credit logic into loyalty-compatible consumer behavior. We are connecting systems that have never been connected, and we're doing it with verification and governance designed in from the very beginning.
So, let's look at how it works in practice.
The end-to-end mechanism is designed to be auditable, transparent, and frictionless for both our brand partners and their customers.
The operational flow is straightforward. A product features a dynamic BioSquares QR code. A consumer scans it, this action triggers the allocation of a fractional credit, which is funded by the brand. Those funds are then allocated to a verified biodiversity project. Independent monitoring and verification ensures the integrity of the outcome. And finally, a proof receipt is returned to the consumer, which can be used for loyalty and engagement purposes. Building a system of this nature requires a very disciplined rollout. Our strategy is phased in order to manage complexity and to build credibility through demonstrated real-world use. So our execution strategy is phased. Phase 1 begins with verified contribution units. These are deployed through product and loyalty partners, and they come with proof and full reporting. Then in Phase 2, as the broader biodiversity and nature credit standards mature, we'll focus on formal alignment. This leads us to Phase 3, a mature BioSquares Biodiversity Credit that can fully interoperate with recognized institutional frameworks. This pragmatic approach ensures we're operational and credible today while architecting the system for the future interoperability that we hope to build with you. The question that drives this work is fundamental. How can we redesign commerce so that it structurally returns value to the natural systems on which it depends?
We believe that by embedding biodiversity funding into the core operating logic of the economy, we can create a tangible implementation pathway for our shared global commitments. We welcome a discussion on how our organizations can collaborate to accelerate this effort.